Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Disclosure Team YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We're going to be joined by Mr. Gary Voorhis Jr. and Mr. Jason Turner. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to introduce our first guest, Mr. Jason Turner. How are you, my friend?
Good, good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm real good, man. So Gary's yet to jump in. That's all good, man. So listen, how's your day going so far, my man?
Good, man. Good. Happy to be here.
Good, man. It's appreciated very much. So yeah, where do we start, man? I mean, why don't we just, do you want to go back to the start right now?
I mean, let's go. Let's do it.
Tell me about your life, early days.
Back before the military. I was a lowly little kid, man, and grew up west of Atlanta and in Georgia for you guys over there. I was about 20 minutes west of Atlanta. Grew up kind of poor, kind of like a lot of us. But yeah, I decided one day after, I needed a change in my life. So I decided to join the military. I was going to join the Army, but then I'm like, I don't know about the Army. Let's not do the Army. So I went to the Navy recruiter's office and took the ASVAB, the test to get in. And May of 2001, I shipped off to boot camp.
Wow.
So it was like right before September 11th.
And was there any like family history of military service and things like that?
Well, my grandpa and my uncle, they were Air Force and Army.
Right.
It really didn't play much of a role.
Right. Yeah.
In my life. As far as, like I've got to keep this tradition.
Yeah, that's what I'm sort of getting at. Because a lot of people, they have that generational thing where father did it, grandfather did it. So you see,
I was just happy to make my mom and especially my grandmother happy.
Yeah.
Because
nice.
Seeing her smile was a good thing.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
So yeah, I joined in May of 2001. I graduated in July of 2001 and went to A school, which is like your specialty school, Meridian, Mississippi.
So like you're saying you did the first initial like tests and stuff, but then when you do the specialist areas, do you go through really rigorous testing where a lot of people don't make it and things like that?
No, I mean it's just like your basic job training, unless you're specialized in like SEAL training and stuff like that, where a lot of people won't make it. They 90%, 80%, 85% dropout, but nothing like that. Nah, that's not me. Cool, I don't like running.
So did you still have a specialty within your area when you started going?
Initially you go through what they call A school, which is like it's a job specialty. So like Gary was a fire controlman. I was a logistics guy. So we go to our individual schools. It's usually 3 to 6 months. And then you get your orders to wherever you're going to go.
Oh, that's cool. Nice background, Vinnie. Is it the right ship? I don't know. Jason, is that the
I don't know. I can't see the front of it.
Oh, wrong way.
No, still can't see. No, I can't see the numbers. They're underwater. It looks like it. I mean,
I did do my research.
All the cruisers look the same.
No, I did.
It's the same. It's a Ticonderoga ship, so yeah, it's kind of the same.
Okay, cool.
They're all the same. They're the same platform.
Yeah. So pretty much got the same system on them as well.
Yeah, pretty much. There's minor differences between all of the ships, depending on where they're at and what they're responsible for within the certain battle group that they're in. Yeah, but most of them, like you can see on that one, it's got pretty much the same systems on it.
Yeah, I see. I chose this because of I keep moving the wrong way. It's mirrored. I found this awesome. This bit where it's like.
Yeah, that's what it looked like when we were off the coast of Africa. Like we were hitting 45-foot swells there. It was crazy.
Did you ever get like in the early days? Did you ever like get seasick or anything like that?
I did. I was, the first time we ever got underway, man. I was sitting on the toilet, and they pull. The tugs. They'll come up beside us and they pull the ship off the pier and then pull us out. Well, I'm sitting there and I'd been on the ship for a couple of months and we hadn't been underway. So I'd never been underway. And all of a sudden it's like your whole house moves. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? And it was an odd feeling, but I never got sick. I never got seasick.
Right.
I wanted to, but I wanted to I felt that way, but I never really, I got my sea legs pretty quickly. And, even when we were hitting the big swells, it was, we had just come out of the Gulf in 2003 and we had to sit off the coast of Africa. And it was like that day when we were going down, we knew we were going to hit some weather.
Right.
And then about 3 o'clock in the morning, I had put the seatbelts up on my rack, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, you roll out of your rack because the ship starts taking on swells, and it was freaky being woke up in the middle of the night, being slung out of your bed. And
that's
it was
crazy. So what were some of your, or what was your first deployment and mission where you actually left the States and was going out into see the world,
That was in 2003. We left on March 3rd of 2003, right before the war started.
Right.
So I think it started on the 20 something of March. So we were on our way there. It was nice. We got to stop in Hawaii for a couple of days, and
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, we that was our first deployment. We were deployed until November 5th of 2003. So it was a pretty long deployment for my first one, especially on a ship. It's like, because you're only 55 feet wide, 567 feet long, and 400 people on that ship. It becomes very small very quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. And were you always traveling in battle groups as well?
Yeah, when we're deployed, we are. We're all kind of traveling together. But anywhere the Nimitz would go, we would go.
So that was always you were always part of that battle group specifically.
Yep. We like when we were going into the Gulf, we would lead the Nimitz and the supply ship. They were in line with us, and then coming out, it would be the same way. I got a few pictures on my Facebook page that I saved from it, but you can actually see the Nimitz behind us, and then the bridge. It was the U.S.S. bridge then, but coming out of the Gulf. That was actually when we were going off the coast of Africa, the Horn of Africa.
Right. Did you come across any troubles or issues with any piracy or anything like that?
We never really saw piracy. We did have a couple of incidents with the Iranians during that. Nothing major. It was a show of force that we did, and then they moved on quickly.
I can imagine seeing however many cruisers and carriers come in.
Okay. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. Sorry for the delay.
No worries at all, man.
But yeah, it was cool. We didn't, we got to work with, it was some Australians. I think the Australian Navy was there in 2003 when we were there, and they kind of cross-decked with us. They sent some of their guys over. We sent some of our people over.
So were they in the battle group with you with their ships?
No, they were working up in the Northern Arabian Gulf.
Right. Okay.
They were already up there.
Okay.
And they do a lot of patrols and stuff up there. So then when we send our VBSS team out, they're doing the same thing, and they're kind of overseeing that operation, and we just kind of follow their lead. Then.
So what was your? I guess you come across the ocean from the States and you're hitting, I don't know, the Africa. And did you start initially when you started seeing land? Did you just see all these new places that just, how did that feel when you realized
Gary and I were just talking about that the other day. Like the ports we went to, the very first port we went to was Bahrain.
Right.
So that was the first time I'd ever stepped foot in a Middle Eastern country. Well, any other country besides America.
Yeah.
And Tijuana, Mexico. But, and we got to go to Dubai. We went there twice, and Bahrain, I think 3 times. And then Thailand.
Wow.
And Singapore. I think that was all we did on that deployment. But we went to like Singapore twice, Dubai twice, Bahrain 3 times. It's crazy, man. How many places?
Did we hit Australia on the way home?
No, they closed. They stopped us from going there. Remember?
That must have been the deployment beforehand. Sorry, I get them mixed up.
The old one deployment.
And do you get downtime in these ports where you can go off ship and enjoy yourselves a bit? Let loose.
Yeah, unless it's a working port. Like the first time we went to Bahrain, it was a working port, so we didn't really get to do anything. We could go to the dome, the desert dome there, and have a beer, but once that was over with, you come back.
Yeah, we had just got finished literally offloading every single Tomahawk missile we had at Afghanistan at that point, and we were actually reloading.
Wow. That's crazy. So what, so you were picking stuff up as well as dropping off?
Yeah. Drop off mail, pick up food stores and mail, and missiles.
Supplies.
Wow, that's incredible. So Gary, thank you for joining me, my friend. It's really appreciated. We just
sorry I'm running a little late. Had to drop my daughter off.
Hey, we know how that goes, bro. It's all good, man. All
Hey,
good.
Gary, check his hat, man. Look at that hat.
Was it U.S.S. Princeton?
Look,
Yes.
hold on,
Yeah.
hold on.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got 3 hats in my closet. I got my patch and then I lost my Zippo. I don't know what the hell happened to that.
Oh, I've got mine. I've got one that's engraved and everything from our deployment.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a collector, Gary. I like to get a little bit of merch, them products and stuff that relates to the things that I'm interested in. So purely out of respect. No, I don't want to, annoy people trying to think I'm.
No, dude, you wear whatever you want to wear.
Yeah, no. As long as it says, it doesn't say, I was a U.S.S. Princeton sailor, or you're not claiming to be a SEAL, or
there's no fake false valor or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
man.
Oh yeah, I'll fuck somebody up on that.
Hey man, I used to watch all those YouTube videos of that stuff, man. That's insane why people do that stuff. But hey, let's not go there. That's crazy.
Well, I think part of it's just mental.
He's going there.
To be honest with you.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. It is. It's some
Yeah,
weird need of acknowledgement, or just I don't know, man. It's
well, the ones that aren't like, slow, because I've seen some a lot of them where they're just not all there.
Yeah,
they literally made up this persona in their head, and that to them it is true.
Yeah,
right.
And,
yeah.
That's their reality. Let them have it though. I mean, as long as they're not. Anyway.
Well, to a point.
Yeah.
So Gary, we just spoke with Jason about kind of him going into the military and stuff. Do you mind talking about what your life was just before and what brought you to joining the Navy and stuff?
Well, just like now, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So, I finished part of college, didn't know what I wanted to do, had no more money, didn't want to stay at home.
Yeah.
So contrary to what everybody thought, I joined the military. I mean, honestly, I everybody was like, "You did what?" Yeah, I was like the last person everybody expected to join the military, but it ended up being a good fit. I didn't have. I had my issues, but we all do. I mean,
absolutely.
It's there's a reason why they got a saying in the military: "Embrace the suck," or FUBAR. So, but in the same respect, you develop skill sets regardless of your rate, regardless of your job. You develop interpersonal relationship skills with people.
Yeah.
Go lay down, Liam. And you are able to make a bond with people that, Liam, it's just the chickens. Lay down. Go lay down. Right. I will.
Just let him eat him. He's hungry.
It's all good, man. I don't mind at all. It's cool.
Real life, man.
That's exactly it, man. So, did you guys meet early on in the first deployment, or did you come on ship at different time, or?
I think Gary got there a little bit before I did, and then because I got there in January of 2002, right after they got back.
Oh, okay, so he'd been on one deployment before you.
I don't know, Gary. When did you get there?
I got there in 2002.
So I was there before.
At the end of 2001, maybe.
I think we got there at the same time.
Because I flew onto the boat during their deployment before I met them in Thailand. On the deployment prior to the one that we were on, the 2003 deployment that we went on together.
No, that's the 2001 deployment.
Yeah, so so it would have been, it must have been 2001 because it was 99 I went in, and then I went to boot camp in San Diego, or not in San Diego, up in Great Lakes, Great Mistakes. And then I went to EEE, which is a basic electronics, and or what they called NIDA then. But I did the self-paced course. I don't know what they had when you went through. Well, you didn't go through the same rate that I did, but so we had to go through an entire electronics course and learn how to troubleshoot down to the micro miniature electronics, basic RF theory, things like that. You know, all these things that these cats on Twitter struggle with. But yeah. But then you got your A school, fire control A school. So fire control would be basically weapon systems. So
Right.
you learn about, everything from, advanced RF theories to, just a general overview of all fire control systems in the Navy. You're
Right.
not really learning specifics on any systems yet. And then you go to yet another school that is specific just to the system that you are going to be deployed to maintain and operate. And at the time, that was the Aegis weapon system for me.
Right.
So then I went to Dahlgren, Virginia for that. And then from there, I did pretty well in my class. So I was able to pick San Diego orders.
Right.
San Diego is kind of like the hot spot. Like you don't want to go to anything on the East Coast because that's where all the brass are. And you want to, San Diego's kind of like that
Too close to DC, man.
Yeah. It's that port town that everybody, it's nice weather. It's good duty. We didn't realize that our, captain was trying for a star and wanted to be out at sea it for ever. I think in the first year I was on that ship, I was only home like 2 months.
Whoa.
Yeah, this guy was volunteering us for every exercise, every possible thing.
Who was it?
That was right after we got back. Corsi. I don't know if you knew Corsi.
Oh, yeah. Captain Corsi. He was cool, man.
Captain Corsi. Dude's nickname was Smoking Joe Corsi.
Yeah, what do you have cigars, man?
This dude would sit up on the bridge with a big old stogie. And every time a JO or a junior officer would get enough nut to tell him that he shouldn't be smoking oh man, it was like you wanted to be there for that because they were about to get their ass handed to them. That's his ship. He
looked like Mario.
Yeah,
No way.
Big bushy mustache, like
yeah. And he's just like, hey, you think old salty dog,
that's
salty
him.
sailor. That was this guy.
Yeah.
And honestly, your first captain makes you or breaks you. And this guy, he really set in stone what my naval attitude was going to be for the rest of my career.
Yeah, then Janikowski come in.
Oh, this Janikowski, you know what? Top notch in everything. Extremely intelligent man. Was very, very motivated in his career, which meant a lot of work and a lot of underway for us. And so I mean, I'm not busting his chops. You play the game how you got to play the game, but I'm not saying I got divorced because of it, but I probably got divorced because of it. She was just kind of a horrible person, anyways. So, or at least at the time. Yeah.
So, we're getting into that territory now. We must be getting, 2003. You're doing deployments and stuff. When did you get back, and how long before you went out on the workups with the Nimitz? End of 2004. Was it a year of workups? How did 2004 start, and through the summer before that? The time that we all know so well.
Well, we got back from deployment in 2003. And matter of fact, November, yeah. And ironically, right before, on our way back, Blink 182 had done a concert on the Nimitz, and I got passes. There was a raffle on our boat for to fly over for the concert, and I won it.
Wow,
so I was able to I was there watching Tom DeLong and all those guys rock out on a carrier, and then a year later.
That's
the
crazy.
Nimitz encounter happens.
Yeah.
We come into port. I getting into a little trouble. This is when I was getting divorced. I kind of maybe paid somebody off to sign off that I was there every day. And well, it turned out to be I did get eventually caught, but we'll say through the blessings of being the only computer technician on board, I kind of got away with it and it got swept under the carpet. But I went UA for 20 days.
Wow.
And yeah, UA is basically AWOL for those that, the people will know AWOL more. I was
unauthorized absence.
Yeah,
20 days.
Dirtbag.
Oh, dude, I was
Dirtbag.
going through divorce, man. And how else are you gonna go beat the hell out of the dude? Couldn't anyways, because he kept running from me.
Wow, I'm just sorry. Do you mind if I just answer this question? If anyone wants to get in touch with me via email, it's across the bottom of the screen. You can see it there. It keeps scrolling. So, guys, just if you do, please send me an email. Sorry, Gary, to interrupt. Carry on.
No, don't worry about it, man. This is your show. You do what you want.
It's all about you guys, man. It's all about you guys.
So, ironically, first class petty officer Cahill was the person that had to come and arrest me.
No way.
Yeah. He had to bring me back to the boat because he was a master at arms at the time. He hadn't made chief yet, I don't think. And he had to come drag me back to the boat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he had to come and find you as well.
Yeah. Well, I had already been gotten a heads up and was heading back down to San Diego, trying to pretend like, what are you talking about? I've been here the whole time, Nope, wasn't gonna work. But we all make mistakes. I was going through a lot of emotional issues with my divorce. So I mean, young and dumb, right?
Absolutely, man.
But I thought it was always funny that, it's like Sean was the person that arrested me when I was in the service, and then like years, almost 20 years later, we were doing a show together in Catalina, and we're walking the streets at night bullshitting about it, and it's like, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's funny how things come around and where we're at now, and it's incredible. So so this is literally the year going through into 2004 that all this happened. And so how did the workups come about? When did you hear about them? When did they start? And
you don't really, we got a ship schedule, but as low level grunts like us, we're just basically standing by. It's like they'll give you a heads up a little bit ahead of time, say, all right, in December we've got, we're going to be out for 2, in for 3. They'll give you the whole schedule, but you never pay attention to it. You just go day to day. Oh, is it next week we're going out, or is it, and then, I was like I said, I was a single guy for the first time in years. So I honestly was, my preparation for deployments were, going down to Mexico to buy liquor and cigarettes. So, I wasn't quite the model sailor all the time, but we'll just say there's enough model sailors buying that stuff from me to keep me well off for a little while. But you always gotta take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And
get that duty free.
Oh yeah. Well, you can go down to Mexico and buy 2 bottles and 2 cartons of cigarettes for practically nothing.
Wow.
And then just basically stock up and sell them for 8 times that when you're underway.
That's crazy, man. So Jason, what about you, man? Like you were there. How did it feel like through that year for you? Were you doing the similar kind of thing?
Yeah, that's kind of how Gary and I we when you're on the smoke deck, man, that's like where everybody hangs out.
What do you think was buying the liquor? No, just kidding.
It's life water, bro. Life water.
Love it.
Yeah, but that's the thing, man. People don't understand. The ship is it's if you haven't been there, or if you've been there for the one time, it seems like a huge. Even the small ships seem big, but at the end of the day, they're only 55 feet wide, 567 feet long, and 400 people on there. So you're going to get to know people real quick.
Yeah.
And, we were talking about this the other day, I remember things that were happening to people in other people's divisions at the time, like when they were making rank or when they were doing stuff, even though I had nothing to do with them, but you know that kind of information just because you live in this little. I mean, it's like a little town, but like you're in a. Everybody lives in the same trailer.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you go on even a workup or a deployment. As soon as you step foot on that ship and you leave the pier, it's like time stops for you. Yep. You know, like everything is it's like, yeah, it's Groundhog Day. Every day that you're doing the same shit over and over again. You're doing the same maintenance. You're talking to the same people. And on a small boy, yeah, slopping down the same food. Complaining about the same things. And then you get back and the entire world changes while you're gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember when we got back from the 03 deployment, that's like, I think that's when the first iPhones came out or was it 03?
Yes, man.
No.
iPhone was a lot later than that.
No, it was the Razor. The new Razor had come out.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I was like super excited about it because I was going to be missing, I wanted to get the titanium Razor and I was like, Liam, shh, come on, buddy. But
work with me.
Yeah. But then we went into the workups, and for a while there really wasn't anything going on. Like I said, when you go out, you're just routine. You know what you're supposed to be doing. I didn't have a chief at the time. Well, actually, Kirby was there at the time, so we had an acting chief, but I didn't have a first class or anything like that. I was the only computer technician, and then we had 2 Q70 techs on board too, which were they had just upgraded us before the 03 deployment, and the new systems were, instead of calling it computer, it was called Q70. So that was with the new.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, the new billets were called that. So that's why I was the only PC technician on board, or the computer technician on board. But I can remember literally being super mad the day that I the very first thing I ever heard about this entire thing going on. I had to do a mid watch, which is where you're on from midnight till 4 a.m. and then you're supposed to be able to sleep in until I think it's like 9 or something like that. But you're supposed to be able to sleep in. And the berthing petty officer, the guy that's in charge of keeping the berthing clean and stuff like that, it's always a secondary duty. So he's got some other thing that he does, and then this is his secondary duty. But he's like rousted me out of my rack and just pissed me off. But he was higher rank, so I couldn't really say much to him. So it was like, I remember just looking at him right in his eyes and saying, you're fucked up, man. You're really fucked up. And then walking off. And then I went up to the smoke break, and one of the spy technicians was like, yeah, we're probably gonna have to do some resets later. We got some unknown tracks we wanted to clear out, and we weren't really worried about it yet. And then once we did reset everything, that was when things got kind of interesting, because the tracks didn't go away.
And what were these initial tracks?
They were slow tracks doing 100 knots, heading south, coming out of the channel between Catalina and California. And so you got that channel there between the island and the mainland, and they're peering coming from that area, and then they slowly go down towards Baja about 100 knots. They weren't coming at us or anything like that, but they were going crazy slow.
Keep in mind, like during this whole time, nobody else on the ship really knew of anything going on. So this is from my perspective here. It's like nobody, and there wasn't even really talk about it at this point in time.
Were you getting altitude as well on those readings?
What's that?
Yeah. They were between 20 and 28,000 feet.
It's important. I'll be right back.
Hey, I'll drop you out, bro. No worries.
Okay.
But it was between 20 and 28,000 feet, depending on time, day, reference, the person I was talking to. I wasn't running the consoles themselves. Right. I was in charge of keeping them up and running, but I didn't actually operate them for, looking at the tracks. And so basically I would just ask them what the hell they were looking at, and they'd explain it to me at the time. And so you got to remember, a Cessna or a balloon
Yeah.
You know, like a hot air balloon, they're going to be around 5,000, 6,000 feet at the most. Yeah, they're not going to be up at 28,000 feet. So the air is very thin up there. It's, you know, you need certain speed to maintain, you know, flight.
And
You
it's
know,
got to be harder to go slow than it is fast.
well, the less mass the object, the slower it can go. You know, so yeah, what the heck are these things?
Yeah.
You know, doing 100 knots at 28,000 feet. You know,
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it was really odd. And I remember making a comment. I'm like, what the heck are these things made out of? Balsa wood? You know, you know, what do we got? Some nutso, jetpack guy. I guess there's a guy running around San Diego right now with a jetpack on, and they're trying to find him.
Are they still trying to find him?
Yep. I don't know if they ever caught him, but I remember hearing the story about it. Yeah. So
Sorry about
so
that. It was a
Hey,
VA.
no problem.
that was definitely really odd. And so I would just kind of piqued my curiosity, but even that really wasn't like enough to, keep my eyes glued or anything like that. But then it just started getting odd because it didn't go away or stuff like that. So I started trying to get the bearing and the range of it.
Yeah. And
then I'd go up to the bridge and see who was on watch. If Cahill was on watch, I wouldn't go out there. We
Why not, Gary? Why not?
Well, something about the law dog of the boat being on watch. You don't really want to go out there. Or if I think it was Varhol.
Dennis.
Yeah, if he was up there, I wouldn't go anywhere up there.
No.
Yeah, there was so there's only a handful of times that I was able to slip out there without, there's always had to be like a JO, a junior officer that just didn't know any better, or I could just pretend like I was doing U.S.S and just kind of slip out the side, and they weren't even paying attention. So, but I try to see them out on the horizon, and a lot of times I couldn't see them, but a couple of times, there was a handful of times I did get to see something. During the day, I don't know whether or not I was actually able to see something. I did see an object on the horizon, but at night, that's really when you could tell, because it did have it did glow. So,
wow,
you just always look at the light at the range and elevation that you're looking for, and hope that it wasn't like a ship on the horizon.
Yeah,
and then you're just waiting for it to move or something like that. And I remember one night, suddenly it just darted off crazy fast. And then so I went back down to combat and like, hey, you still got that track? And I go, and he goes, no, we don't. We lost the track. I go, was it at this time? And like, yeah, dead nuts. Yeah. So I was seeing the actual track that we were seeing. So now that's how I would identify them. I try to go up there at night and then sometimes they go straight up. Sometimes they just disappear. So I'm guessing they were going the opposite direction that I was at. So instead of coming at me or going away from me, so I, basically they just disappear. But if they went left, right, or straight up, I could always tell whether, I was actually looking at one.
Yeah.
And then I never got to see them up close until I saw the intercept video, which I'll let Jason talk about that since we both saw the video.
Yeah, so Jason, because obviously you were on a different part of the ship, I guess, and doing a completely different job. When did it first start? When did you start hearing things about something going on?
When the ship went to battle stations, that was like kind of the. And I'm not sure what day that was. That or why we actually. Yeah, it may have been right when. The intercept was happening that we did. It's been so long ago, I can't remember specific days. But the ship went to battle stations, and that's when the scuttlebutt, the rumors, that's when everything started between the people who weren't involved. And then you got people like Gary and some of the other guys who work up in, the combat who come down and smoke, and we're trying to like pry that information out there. What the heck is going on, man? And, so, and then from there, it was, I don't know, man. It's weird because, again, we have a job to do, and we we can't really worry ourselves with what else is going on in the world at the time. And we didn't have these. So we couldn't figure things out really quickly because we didn't have the ability to, even though we were right off the coast of San Diego, like you have no service out there, no cell service. Even then, I mean, as soon as you get within a couple miles from the shore, we had service.
Yeah.
But like once you're out there, you're out there. And, you know, it's like an island and you're secluded from everything. And, but being there, you know, things start going around the ship and, you know, people are debating on what it is or why this is happening. Then it's like, okay, now people are starting to, you know, information is starting to kind of leak out because people talk. You know, I tell you something and then you'll go to your friend like, hey, bro, you should have heard what Jason told me. You know, hey, don't say anything to nobody.
See, that's the type of rumor that I actually heard from about the underwater track, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, and then, you know, years later, I try to talk to that guy and I'm bullshitting with him and he's, oh yeah, let's catch up. You know, we're talking and stuff. And I'm like, so, you know, when we had the event happen and then he's just like, click, hung up on me.
Wait, so please do what was the underwater track?
Yeah.
There?
So during when we were on the boat, when this was happening, I had one of the sonar techs tell me that they had a track.
Was it the same guy that called you the other night?
No,
okay, different one.
No, he was probably drunk in torpedo room. But
he probably,
so
that's him for sure.
Yeah, but no, this guy was actually one of the more junior guys there. But yeah, and then I find out just a couple of weeks ago. Well, actually, it's been over a couple of months ago now that all of the sonar technicians are now under NDA and have been since the event, and that they did have a passive track of the object. So, and that's like immediately right after they had that first passive track is right when we went to general quarters.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Did you get any more information or rumors about what the track showed? Was it something moving at speed? Was it any more details?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they got the signature, basically the sonar signature of it, you know, so everything that moves in the ocean has a certain like noise level and a certain signature profile to it. So, an acoustic profile.
Yeah.
And so that's how these, you know, they can keep on passive, but know what's around them. You know, they may not know, you know, where in the water it is. They just know that it's out there because it's making noise, and they can kind of tell general locations, like which direction it is, not like where it's actually at. And this thing, if they weren't going to give me he wouldn't give me any specifics about exactly what it was, like the numbers and stuff like that. But he kind of gave me a general idea, like, you know, if you've got a diesel sub, which is the loudest thing in the ocean, and then you have a nuclear sub, which is the quietest thing in the ocean, it made a nuclear sub look noisy, you know. So it was, and it was fast.
Here's what I'm talking about. The sonar
thing in the bottom. That's the sonar dome on the bottom.
Wow, that's big.
Oh yeah, I tell you what, when we get into rough seas and we start going up the wakes, when that thing hits the water, the whole ship goes do back and forth down into the water. It'll make you sick in about a heartbeat.
Is it like this?
Yeah. Oh, I've been in seas much worse than that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, we Jason, were you, or did he? He had to go. All right,
he's got a phone call. Oh, he's back.
At some point, we were in the South China Seas. Were you there when we went through that typhoon in the South China Seas? Heading out to the.
We were.
Or was that during 2001?
No, we were sitting off the. We didn't go through a typhoon. It was just it was rough seas, and we went off the coast of Africa because we had left the Gulf, and then.
Well, that's when we were transiting down to Australia.
Yeah, that was y'all. That was in
But either way, at one point we went through a typhoon in the South China Seas, and we were just, I mean, it was to the point where the ship would move so far over that you could like walk on the bulkhead on the walls and then have to walk back down. I mean, it was pretty hairy. You were if you weren't on watch, you were stuck in your rack. you couldn't leave your rack. You had to have your straps up. There's these straps to keep you from rolling out of your rack. And, yeah, it was pretty crazy. But that, I lost my train of thought.
Don't worry, man.
Where was I going with this?
Yeah, I do have there's a question here that says, trigger warning, non-UFO UAP question. It said, what are your thoughts on pushing the lower military requirements for some specialized group, i.e. SEALs, Special Forces, in an attempt to be inclusive?
No.
Honestly, what would be the point?
I wouldn't want to compromise them.
No, not really.
Once you start once you start lowering standards on that, and that's what we were talking about. Vinnie and I were talking about before. I could never cut it as a SEAL ever, even back in my 20s. And if they start lowering those standards, bro, you're asking for even more failure.
Yeah. That's like saying it's okay that you don't know how to fix the equipment.
Yeah. I'm not a electrician,
Well, Special Forces, they're a specific tool. They're there to solve problems that normal people can't. They're there to be the top of the top of the top. Not, right. I'm not the whole big give everybody a trophy type of person. I'm like, no, sometimes you win, you lose. If you're not good enough, practice.
Hello?
Yeah. That's part of life. I'm not, to each is their own and how they want to raise their kids. But, by the time my daughter's 16, she'll be able to field strip an AR and figure out the mass of a black hole. So, if, you can't keep up, that's not my kid's fault.
I know, bro. I love that. That's awesome, man. So just sticking with the weeks, well, when you were getting the tracks and stuff, was it over like a week or 2 weeks prior to what we know as the,
it's
when
about
Fravor...
7 days, 6 or 7 days or so. Be dead honest with you, I didn't keep track of how long it was or anything like that, but it was about 6 or 7 days, and we had the tracks on and off throughout that whole time. It was just kind of like a game at a certain point, and then then the whole attitude changed once the intercept happened.
And that was Kevin. That was Kevin that kind of started.
Kevin's the one that instigated that whole process by, because they were about to train in that general area where these tracks kept appearing, and they were there the day of the training. So he started seeing that it might be a issue with a safety issue with us doing, flying, sorties over in that area and not knowing exactly what the heck these things are, because they're not squawking any IFF or identification friend or flow or, any of these signals. They're not, they're not communicating with us that they're disabled. They're not, we can't tell what they are other than that they're just a solid track, So all of a sudden, somebody's grabbing me and saying, hey, come check this out. They did an intercept. They actually went after it. And I'm like, oh, about damn time. What took them so long, And then first time I watched this thing, I'm like, I remember just kind of looking up at them. I'm like, is this real? And they're like, yeah, that's the intercept. And I'm like,
so this is Chad Underwood's intercept.
Yeah. This is Chad Underwood's intercept, as far as I know, and the tic-tac, the one that you guys have seen. So,
did you get to see any radar or anything like that?
No. You only see the FLIR data. We don't see the radar. If you want radar, I can tell you about the radar all day long. Not unless somebody took
there's talk of it being, Chad sort of said that there are radar.
Well, there's radar data, which is basically would do you no good without the programs that associated with it.
Sure.
So like if I gave you the compiled data, it's just numbers. It's just a big, huge thing of numbers that mean something to a program, but don't mean anything to you. So
hey, somebody on here asked if we have gotten in trouble for talking about this, and no, because for one, we're not talking about things that are classified. And two, we're not under an NDA.
Yeah.
To not talk about it. So I don't know how to pronounce this person's name, but Yeah, no, none of us have gotten in trouble for it. And honestly, I'm surprised we haven't gotten a talking to. But at the end of the day, it's like we're not talking about things that hasn't already been talked about. So
Yeah.
the information's already out there, and I'm sure that's part of the reason why we haven't had somebody come up and like.
Yeah, I haven't. I've said from the beginning, as soon as the men in black knock on my door, or somebody comes up to me, and says, "Hey, you're so and so, and you get a nice family over there. I'd be ashamed if anything happened. I'd be done. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it would take. That's it. I'm not going to try to front. I'm not going to try to pretend. If it comes down to the safety of my family, I will straight up shoot anybody. I don't care."
But I'll let people know. Hey, look,
yeah,
man.
yeah, I know. I know. I'll tell everybody. I'm like, look, they said to stop talking about it, so I'm done. Have a nice life. And then, since we are answering some questions here, let's go ahead and look through here. So Sneaky Toaster, I was actually in the chat for that Tom DeLonge and Simeon thing, and I asked a lot of questions, and the only thing they actually talked about was because I had asked whether they were going to be involved with Avi's program with Harvard, and no, there was just a lot of look how awesome we are, and by the way, we need money more. We need more money.
It was a strange conversation.
They didn't really go over anything new.
No.
It was nice to see, them actually do something, but they've been so absent from this field for so long, and I mean, the last thing I heard prior to this was that they had a government contract with the Army.
Yeah, with the metamaterials and stuff like that.
Then I hear that, they're two like people that are the big guys, the big guns just left their company,
Hey, Gary, Josh just
Yeah.
asked a question about the people that come and took it. He said he heard people, like there were people that come to take it in plain clothes, but also seen the interviews of two guys showed up in Air Force uniforms.
All right, so that's kind of a combined account that you got then, because with PJ, he said that the guys that came to took the bricks for the Hawkeye were in Air Force uniforms, and the guys that came to the Princeton, so that was on the carrier.
Yeah.
And then so the two separate events, same thing happening. The guys that came and took my tapes were the men in khakis, not the men in black. So they they had they were dressed like I am right now with a polo and some blue jeans, khakis, whatever. They just looked like normal guys, and I mean they could have been tech reps. I didn't know, but I doubt it. I knew just about all of them since I was there helping them install all of these new systems. So I knew a lot of them. So it would have had to been like an entire group of new people that I've never met, which, plus it was just weird. It felt weird. Like, during the 01 deployment or the 03 deployment, when did that plane go down or the chopper go down? And we have to go fish out all that stuff.
Well, that was on our deployment in 03.
Okay.
There's the EA-6B Prowler.
Yeah, we had a Prowler go down, and right after that, they had flown out tech reps, and they had come on board. They talk to me, they make eye contact, tell me what's going on, tell me exactly what information they need, and and I get it for them, sign it over to them, and then they shake my hand and walk off. These guys standing over in the corner, no eye contact, wouldn't even look my direction, sign it over, hand it over to one of the chiefs in our division, and he hands it to them, and they walk off. No comments, no nothing, very impersonal, no explanation, so it just felt very clinical rather than, the way it was prior when I have had, data taken before, and it was for a good reason. They were looking to see, they weighted down craft. So eventually it was going to end up being something there that they could use to figure out what happened.
Yeah. Do you guys, I mean, this is a question here I've got on the screen, Greg. Thank you, Greg. How many people on the ship knew where the cap point was that morning? And this is something that's been talked about for so many years now. Do you guys have any idea? Or
the pilots involved, the officers that were briefed prior to it, just the people directly dealing with the operation. That's it. I didn't know where it was. It wasn't something that you could just pull up the plan of the day and say, oh, there's the cap point. No, it's just the people involved. That's it.
Would the radar guys, would Kevin have known?
Yeah, because he was running the operation,
Yeah,
so
right.
he would have been in a brief and known where the cap point is, and so then all the pilots in the air, the admiral aboard the carrier, the captain of the other ship, captain of our ship, any officers that were involved with it over on the carrier, so I mean, there's quite a few people that would know where the cap point was, and it would have been briefed in the training notes and the mission prior, so everybody would have already known where all this stuff was going to be. But it is secret. I mean, it's not going to be, nobody's going to be sitting on a smoke deck. So where's the cap point? Yeah. None of us would even think to ask that.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close to being anything we did in our job. So,
I mean, I've heard rumors that they say that people in the Air Force even knew where the cap point was.
They could have. I mean, it was, we were.
How did they know that this was going on?
But we'd been tracking them for 7 days. So, right. I mean, any number of things could happen. We could have some officer that just thought that nobody was doing anything and literally shot an email to somebody he knew, and then that went to somebody and it went up and up and up. Or the captain could have been like, look, I don't want nothing to do with this. I don't want to be the captain that tracked UFOs, but this is going on. You need to get your people out here. I mean, the admiral on the carrier could have been like already in talking with everybody. So, I mean, there was a lot of time before we did the intercept that it could have gotten out that we were tracking unknown aircraft. So,
and it was UFOs. They were being talked about UFOs in those days leading up to.
Well, they would always been called unknown aircraft. They would have never said UFO ever.
Okay.
No, that word is taboo. You don't say UFO. It's not an official term that we would have used. It would have been an unknown aircraft. Period. End of story. If you went off that and said UFO, you'd be kicked out of combat, or you'd be kicked out of whatever meeting you were in, unless it was like in jest and it was just kind of one of those good natured jokes with a UFO flying across the screen before the briefing or something.
Sure.
It's like, oh, okay, we all got our laughs. Now let's back to business. That kind of situation. But no, you don't talk UFO. Period. You don't say you just say unknown aircraft, with a bearing and elevation of so you keep everything has to stay professional when it comes to that.
So I'm sorry, am I right in saying that the FLIR footage came across to the Princeton the same day or the day after the intercept, and you all saw it? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm still not sure exactly the time frame from when it was filmed to when I got to see it.
Right.
I know that it was relatively close. It had to be within the same day or the next day.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I was actually under the impression it was live, but I was like, we could do this. I remember thinking that. Well, no, apparently I don't think it really was, because I don't think we had the tech to do that at the time. But
from plane to ship,
when somebody's just like, hey, come check this out. But then, and then it ended. And then we were able to restart it again, and that should have been the clue. But sometimes when you're just not thinking. But I remember the second time I watched it through is really when I started to notice the details that I missed the first time through, because it's just mind-numbing when you first see it. And when you first see it, you're just comprehending this new reality. Then the second time you watch it, you start looking for details. And, everybody's right. It didn't go very fast in a video. You're right. Yeah. It didn't. But it didn't have wings, didn't have propellers. It had a universal heat signature, meaning that the entire thing was the same temperature. There was no deviances in heat signature with this thing. Now, the problem with that is engines put off heat.
Yeah.
Without an engine, how the hell is it staying in the air? And not only that, why is the entire object colder than the air that it's flying through? Laws of thermodynamics, anything that moves through.
I think my biggest thing is how is it making 90-degree maneuvers?
Yeah.
With, you try to do that with anything that we have, even drones that we have today.
Yeah.
And it's like, Good luck explaining that one to me. I mean, can we do it now? You know, who knows?
Well, yeah, I don't think anything can go a Mach speed and do a right turn. So,
No.
you know, we have things that'll do right turns pretty fast, but not like that.
No.
And especially, and that's another thing, man. It's like you put a human being in there, our bodies just can't handle that.
No, we can handle what? 9 Gs?
9 Gs, and you're, you know, and those are the highly trained.
That's with a pressure suit.
Yeah.
Keeping your blood flowing, literally.
You know, and that, to me, that's where I start taking the human element out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly think like the tic-tac shake crafts that people have encountered are unmanned.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean,
they're either unmanned or they're some type of biomechanical device if they are some type of actual entity inside of them. So they're, you know, if they're us, then they're still I still think they're unmanned.
Yeah. Sneaky Toaster, thank you for the $5. Really appreciate it, man. So was the point of origin known or identified at all?
It was just coming from the north of the channel. I mean, it just basically, they were always coming out of the channel. We never, I mean, it's basically where we were floating down south of Catalina in like a little box area there. So they just come in on the edge of our sensors. So, I mean, we'd never see the actual point of origin. They didn't just
pop on.
They didn't just appear in the middle of our sensors. They'd come down on the edge and come through.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's cool. So listen, like the days after the intercept, did it all just die down and you just went straight back to workups as general, just normal? Yeah. So how did you guys feel after that? You know, after the deployment, after the workups and everything, did it sit in your mind for long, or did you just push it back and, you know, it didn't come up again?
I kind of suppressed it myself. I internalized. I became pretty distant from anything and everybody. I didn't really try to, you know, I wasn't trying to tell people about it. I wasn't trying to warn people of, you know, that this shit's real or anything like that. Instead, I started delving into my own studies instead, because for me, I just found out that these things are possible.
Yeah.
You know, how? I mean, I was already a student of physics and engineering. It was beyond my concepts of how this could possibly I couldn't even fathom how these things could work, you know, and I just really wanted to know how they worked and try to figure it out for myself. So I started doing the MIT's curriculum for physics and engineering, their engineering fields. You know, I couldn't afford to go, so I just pulled their curriculum, their coursework, and started doing it myself. And then I did Harvard's, and then I did CIT's, and I'm still not that smart. So, but you know, so it's, yeah. So with no formal education, it was tough trying to figure this stuff out, and I still haven't figured it out. Thank God we do have PhDs on our team.
Yeah.
You know, because these guys are honestly amazing. You know, I can keep up with what they're saying. I just, you know, sometimes they have to break it down for me a little bit. So,
sure. Well, let's jump, man. Let's jump from that time period to, you know, the last few years when this, you know, the story broke. 2017 happened. We've all heard how that changed the whole subject of UFOs and UAP. So, I mean, I think as well, people might know, but they might not know. And I don't want to go into it without him being here, but Kevin had some issues with what he saw over the years since. But that did lead him to forming, along with you guys, UAPX. So,
Dog.
Show us the dog, Gary. Show us the dog. I think the chat want to meet him as well. Liam.
Hey, there was someone on here that was asking. They said, "How did it make us feel after seeing these things? Have we been able to really give it a place?" For me, I'm a skeptic of all things UAP.
What, even now?
Yeah, I mean, even now. I'm not saying that I don't believe. I've never said that. But I try to rule out every possible answer. I mean, you know, every idea has its place in our own reality.
Yeah.
Every idea. I mean, as much as people hate flat earthers, they have a place in reality, because it's okay to question things, but eventually you've got to come to a conclusion eventually.
You're not getting into the flat earth,
and that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of where I'm at.
Wants to get into flat earth.
No, I'm good.
No, I know what you're saying, Jason, man. And yeah, you're right. You are. Everyone's got to question things in their own way.
Right. And get, people need the opportunity to think about these things. Even I need the opportunity to think about what it is that we're seeing and the things that we've seen since then, and try to understand it. Because yeah, sure, you're seeing some lights in the sky, or somebody sends a video of a triangle on a night vision.
Right, is that something you've got?
No.
That
was something that was released at midnight on Tuesday.
Okay. Oh, we're talking. Yeah. I'm with you.
But there comes a time where I have to say, you know what? I'm going to put my own personal beliefs aside.
Yeah.
And then hear people out, because we as humans, we have our own way of thinking, and we tend to, if anybody says something that's completely contradicting to what we believe, we automatically go on the defense. We internalize ourselves, and we're saying, nope, this is what I believe. This is my truth. This is where I stand. And we can't do that. Yeah. And something that really turned me off when I first showed up on the scene was like, people were so hell bent on being right.
They still are.
and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to mute this person, because there's no talking to them. And you've got to be able to talk to them when it comes to this, because at the end of the day,
I just get turned off. Like when I argue with somebody online, I try not to even argue. Just tell me what your point is, and that's it. And if I don't agree, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you got a good point, I'll discuss it with you.
Yeah.
But if we start having a circular argument, you'll just see me stop engaging. Like how many feeds did you see me start talking and then just disappear?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, these guys are literally just going over the same bullshit that they can't know over and over again until they're blue in the face, because they just don't want to believe it's true.
I answered your question in the chat I've been sitting talking in the chat with Scott Brown.
I appreciate it. Shout out Scott Brown, though. Thank you for being here, Scott. Good friend. Love that.
Yeah, we do plan on visiting hospital, but we got to start local, man. We've got enough going on right here just in the United States, so like it would be nice to be able to travel, but I don't see us being able to travel anytime within the next,
I'm getting passports for me and my family.
Shout out Megan T for the $5. Do you think the Army or some other U.S. government sector would test this technology on the Navy, though?
All right, look into my eyes. Absolutely.
Yes.
There you go. Straight up outside. Love it. That's what we want to hear, man. So yeah, but that's been talked about so many times over the years, that people saying, no, of course they wouldn't, because of the risk and the danger to the pilots and people like
bullshit.
that.
Look at the risk and the danger of giving untested vaccinations to millions of troops. Look at the friggin' CIA. Look at even the Army tested psychedelic drugs on their own people. Look how many times they put ships over the top of a nuclear blast just to see what the effects of radiation were. The Nautilus was a test platform for radiation containment, where most of the original plank owners died of freaking cancer.
I got to take a tour of that when I was going through submarine school.
Yeah, I lived in Massachusetts. The very first Navy anything I was on was the U.S.S. Nautilus.
Whoa. There you go.
Yeah.
Man.
I won't go into my whole ordeal.
Yeah, bro. Hey, we can do that another time. Or we can do that on my Instagram live one time,
Yeah, hey,
so guys,
I pop in on Instagram for sure.
Hey, nice, man. I always appreciate that. You know that, man. We have a good
I've been
time.
getting more and more involved with Instagram, but it's,
Gary.
it's still an unknown platform for me. So I'm kind of feeling my way out. Kind of like Twitter. Twitter, when I first started, I'm like, oh, what is this mess? How the hell do you even use this? Why do people even bother with this crap? And I still, sometimes with all the different sub threads and threads,
because
going
my
everywhere.
opinion has to be right, and I'm gonna.
But
No,
I will say though, once the voice of reason rings out, then most people kind of shrink back. So that's where I'm not always that guy, but I'll be honest, I try to keep people working together. It's like everybody hates on, hey, this can't be a UFO interview unless we talk about this gentleman. Everybody talks about Mick West. All right. Now, nobody generally particularly likes his opinions or his views, but he's like the gatekeeper for us, kind of like, you ever seen that drag racing show where they had the farm truck? If you wanted to drag race any of these big dogs, you have to go up against the farm truck first. He's like the UFO world's farm truck. If you can't stand up in an argument with Mick, you might as well just pack it up and go home.
Yeah, I spoke to Mick live here last week, man. It was a tough interview, man. But
he's just, I think he frustrates people on purpose just to try to get more information, more than you're willing to give them, because like with us, we've literally told you everything that we know, shy of system specifics, and sorry, I can't tell you the actual range of our highly classified, top of the line, best in the world radar system that's protecting our nation. My bad.
But, I kind of like the pushback that people like, that he and other people who are questioning things, because even for us, even for UAPX, it helps us to raise our game.
Exactly. That's what I tell people. It makes you work harder.
Yeah, because you know what, I started asking those questions the last time we were out, and I'm like, you know what, this has to be asked right now.
Yeah, if Mick sees this, if you're ever in Florida, make sure you get a hold of me, man. We'll go have a beer or have a drink or whatever.
There you go. So listen. So yeah, guys, let's jump to those days where this conversation first cropped up, and where did it come from? The whole let's form a team, let's do this, the UAPX thing. Where did it start? Let's really dig in, man. I'm so interested to know the finer points and how it grew.
Well, I remember we had, it was a little bit after we left Laughlin. So Laughlin was when me, Jason, PJ, and Senior Chief Day had made our first public appearance about what had happened in 2004.
Right.
And I remember it was not a bad experience, but it wasn't a good experience either. It was a 7-day convention. Never again. Never. I had just had a baby. We were running away from people smoking pot everywhere in Nevada, trying to keep our baby out of pot smoke and cigarette smoke. And, so basically we'd have to run through the lobby, or we'd have to run to the convention area where nobody could smoke. So it was rough. And then, of course, I ended up like $600 in the hole. Well, unlike Jason over here, Mr. Lucky Ass.
What?
He sits down just blowing some, I don't even know. I think it was probably a penny machine or something, but he just thinking off, wins.
I quit playing though, and I won.
Yeah.
And I kept it.
Oh yeah. I would have done the same thing. I would have been like, and while you're waiting and I'm by myself, I'll throw a couple of quarters in a machine or something just to dink around. But I'm not a real big gambler, so that aspect of it was a waste for us too. So we were not gamblers. We're not real big drinkers. I don't do drugs. So other than the actual food, and of course we had no cars, so we couldn't go and explore the area or anything. But we ended up being a really good time. Me, Dave Beatty, and all of us, we became pretty close on that trip. We filmed the Nimitz encounters during that trip.
Can I say something about that? That interview, those interviews that you see with all of us were filmed at different times. And we hadn't all kind of gotten together. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. We hadn't all gotten together and talked about our experiences. Sorry, somebody's outside.
Yeah, I got the same problem. Somebody broke down across the street.
We hadn't got together, and so we didn't even have time to even talk about our part of the story. So when you hear everything, all of those interviews, they're all separate accounts, and that is about as close to where we hadn't all sat down and spoken to one another. I hadn't spoke to Gary in years.
Wow.
You know, and Kevin was all he had done. We don't have a relationship. We didn't have a relationship with Kevin because he was a senior enlisted.
Yeah.
So at that point, like we the hierarchy in the military, if people don't understand it, is very real, right? And chief and above, we just don't. They don't hang out with people who are E4. You know what I mean? They're a boss.
Yeah. For sure.
So, you know, I get an email from Kevin like, hey, I think you should talk to this guy. I know you were there on the Princeton this time, blah, blah, blah. I really think you should. And it took him like 4 months before I was like, okay, I'll call him. And then I talked to Dave. He asked me about, you know, my story, my part of the story. And then next thing you know, we're getting flown out to Nevada.
Wow.
Gary and Kevin and PJ had already done their interviews, and then I was the last one to get there. And then I went and did my interview. But at that time, we hadn't seen each other till that very day.
Wow.
So we didn't even have time to like sit down and go over the facts of the case of this whole thing. But a lot of people need to understand that, because that is the unrehearsed or not even rehearsed, but like where you haven't gotten this idea in your mind planted there by someone else saying, well, we could have done this.
Yeah. That was the only our own memories, period.
That was our own recollection of what was transpiring.
That's good to know as well. For us as the outsiders that look in, have heard this story over the years so many times, to know that you hadn't talked about the story together and then all said the same thing, but it all came separately.
Right.
It is important. I think that's incredible.
And see, here's another thing with PJ, the way his added on to this is because he was not, I had no clue who the guy was.
No, me either.
He's on
Nimitz. Yeah,
he's on the Nimitz. You know, and then all of these things just started fitting together. And then I watched Dave's, and I'm like, holy crap.
Dude, it gave me like goosebumps across my arm when I watched it, because it's like, oh crap, you know, this definitely really did happen. I'm not nuts.
So I think that's where a lot of things get lost, because you know there is so much chatter behind the scenes that people, you know, like they think that we talk about these things, you know, prior to. I didn't know anything about what they had said. When he recorded me on that long interview that he did of each of us, those are all separate interviews.
Yeah.
You know, and I had showed up on the, y'all, I think, Gary, you did your interview the day before I got there.
Yeah.
PJ,
we went out.
Who was it that was together? Was it you and Kevin that were together?
Yeah.
So PJ was separate. You and Kevin.
We did our individual interviews separately, and then we just did some
B-roll footage.
B-roll with us talking and bullshit and stuff, and just kind of hanging out.
Right. So then I show up, and I, you know, when I got there, I could take you through the whole thing. It took forever to get from the airport down there, and I'm like, who are all these people asking me questions? Like, who is this guy that I'm riding with? It's like, yeah, man, I'm going to get you this, and then you can talk about this, and then I'm like, who are you? I don't know who you are. Like, you know, so it's like, I just want people to understand that is the freshest interview you'll ever get from any of us, because we hadn't spoken about it. Now that night, we sat down and we're like, bro, look where we're at, you know, look, holy crap. This is like, we're finally able to talk about this. openly, and without fear, without ridicule. So then, like that next day or the day after, when we actually went up on stage and we're talking about this, that's when reality kind of really set in for me that this is real. It wasn't the interviews. It wasn't the getting on there and just telling my story. It was, holy crap. This is happening. This is really happening.
That's big. That's big, man. A big feeling.
Yeah. It was a great feeling because it allowed it to get out everything that you've internalized for all these years.
Yeah.
To finally be able to say, here's my story.
So
whether you believe what I'm saying or not, I couldn't care less.
Yeah, but you felt that weight lifted off your shoulders finally.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And that's important for you and all of you guys, I'd imagine. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Michael Crawford. Thank you so much for the $5. So were you guys aware of the ability to track these objects by their signals that they might have been giving off?
No, I'm aware of that ability. Depending on what signals you're talking about, if you're talking about EM or you're talking about, RF, or you're talking about, sonar, so some type of sonar, yes. I was already, I knew what the EWs do. I know what all my other shipmates did. So I know the capabilities. Can I discuss them? No.
No, of course.
I do know that the people on the Hawkeye, which would have had direct, EM readings, and our EWs and our sonar guys are all under non-disclosure. So I'm guessing they got something. And I know the sonar guys did. So I'm assuming anybody with a NDA had tracked something that they don't want to get out, or some type of information that they didn't want public knowledge.
That's big, man. Just to think of all these different data collection points that are still out there and still classified.
Well, and I think that's where, I'd made a post on Twitter the other day that, the government's not going to give this to us.
No.
At all, ever. And we have got to come together as a community and share this information, and that's our ultimate goal here, is to be able to get things that are peer reviewed, but then also give people the data, because that's the one thing that the government is being very, very tight-lipped about, is the data.
Yeah.
So being able to collect our own data, there's nothing that says we can't do that.
Absolutely.
So why not do it? And I think that's where we need to all figure it out. People, the infighting needs to stop.
Yeah.
People, if people would just share what they have, and I'm not talking, just the regular Joe on the street who, I'm talking about the people who have put their work in, and the people who have collected data.
Yeah.
People are sitting on this stuff for whatever reason, and I feel like we've got to, if we're ever going to make strides, it's going to have to be collectively.
Yeah. Totally agree.
I'm at the point now where I'm not going to wait for the government to hand it over. I don't expect they're going to hand over any actual information except for anything from the 2004 event on. Mm-hmm. Too much liability, too many loose threads prior to that. Even there's loose threads even with our situation. So, it's just a matter of, they will release other things. Now, remember, think about all of the jets that are in the air at all times. Think of all the jets that were in the air just that day.
Yeah.
Every single one of them has a camera. Every single one of them.
Yep.
There's no doubt in my mind there's thousands of hours of these things just sitting somewhere being analyzed. Once they're analyzed, cataloged, they're either probably destroyed or sent to some type of cold storage.
Yeah.
They're not, these things, they have, I wouldn't be surprised if they still don't know what they are, but I won't be surprised at the fact that they have way more. They're so far ahead of us, and being able to analyze this stuff. They've got the real videos, they've got the, they've got the metadata, they've got the radar tracks, they've got the environmental data. They know what kind of radiation these things are shedding off. We could use that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having to figure things out ourselves because, even with our stuff, we're literally doing the Russia technique, throw everything at it and see what sticks.
Hey, best way, surely we get something back.
And we've gotten some leeway. We can't talk about what we're doing yet, but I know our community hears that a lot. But there's two reasons.
I was just going to say, can you explain why? Because I know why, and I think that's fine, and I think everyone needs to know that. So there's no.
So the primary reason is I need to give. We've got real scientists on our team, real PhDs that are doing the white papers for us on the data that we've collected. And we have to be able to give these people the time to do their analyzing of this data to see what we have. But once they're done, we'll be past the NDA that we're in. We'll be past all that stuff. And as soon as they have a published paper and they are done with the data, I'm giving it to everybody. We as a company, we've already talked about it. We're not gonna say, okay, well, we'll give you these important files that we found. No, we're gonna give everything. I've already started talking with people in the industry on how to disseminate this worldwide. We're not talking any smoke and guns here, but we're talking real research, things that people can spend years combing through.
And see, Gary, like here, Priscilla Stone had asked the question, how do you suggest the regular Joes handle sightings? And that's a good question. Like,
chalk it up to, guess what? I saw one.
Even for me, like if I saw something, like what am I supposed to do with that information?
Well,
love that. I love her question about that. Like, what are people supposed to do about it? I don't know.
Unless they're going to keep like an RF meter next to them so they can scan all the RF frequencies at the same time. Unless they're doing research, I mean, other than reporting where it was, you just got to be lucky that you saw one or unlucky that you saw one, depending on how it changes your life. Literally, I'm always interested in hearing a good story, but unless you've got some hard data for me, it's not really going to actually help other than to let us know where we should, go look.
Yeah.
The only thing that stories tell us is where the hot spots are. And ironically, they were just where, sometimes they're not where people are, but a lot of times they're just where there's a lot of people. When you look at the multiple sightings in the canal between Catalina and California, it happens to fall the same time during big tourist season. Well, what's out there at that time? Tourists looking in the sky at the beach. So it's not surprising that there's more events there. But I have a feeling that this is going on around us at all times, and we just are now starting to be able to just. Joe, what's that little chip in the paint? Oh shit! What the? We're starting to see things that we didn't ever perceive before, and now that we're knocking on the door, it's not gonna. The door's not gonna close. Pandora's box is already open now at this point. So now we just got to keep prying it, and just be careful what you wish for. I'm not a doom and gloomer, but they're very well. I'm going to go ahead and say it for the record. If there is alien presence on this planet, A, they've always been here.
Yeah.
And B, guess what? We're the Native Americans in this story.
Right.
Right.
They probably own the earth or have rights to the earth or something of that nature. I mean, they play on a galactic scale. They don't play in your backyard. You're
Absolutely.
a kid to them. You're an advanced primate to them.
Yeah.
Ooh, cool. Look, these people, these ones are building simple tools, and they're talking about Aegis. They're talking about our capability of blowing ourselves up. Oh wow, look, they finally figured out a way to destroy their entire planet all in one swoop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So listen,
Stupid,
Gary,
stupid
one
primates.
thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to dig now into UAPX because we've been told, we know that you're doing things and you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is that when I was doing my research this week, looking into both you guys, I came across the poster for the new documentary. And am I right? Is it Tear in the Sky?
Tear in the sky. Yeah, tear in the sky, tear in the sky, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, I was going to say I wasn't sure which one it was, but yeah, that's fine. So can you give us any indication about when it's going to possibly be released? I know is it in post-production right now?
No clue.
Yeah,
No, I can't.
That's fair enough.
Talk about it.
Hey, no problem at all, man. I had to
Yeah,
ask.
there is a website for it that you can Google, and that'll keep you updated. So if you Google that, I think it's still up. Is it still up, Jason?
Yeah.
Could you share that address with us?
I don't know if I have it on.
Well, I'll tell you what, send it to me later and I can pop it in the description below. That'd be amazing if you could. I'd love to see
I think it's
that.
tearinthesky.com, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be
Let
awesome.
me just do a little Google search real quick. And
Thank you.
actually, if you go at IMDb, it should have a link right to it.
Yeah,
It's already listed.
tearinthesky.com.
We're already listed as being in that movie.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. That's why I came across your name, Gary, on there. And then I saw A Tear in the Sky, saw the poster, and I was like, okay, I'd not heard about it. I knew you guys were working on something along those lines, but there you go. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, tearinthesky.com is where it's at.
That's interesting. That's an interesting poster as well, man. So exciting, man. And this is the thing. I hope that when you guys are able to talk, that you'd come back on and talk to me about it. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, we'll just leave it to her to talk about it right now.
Yeah, she deals with all the promotion for that. We don't deal with any of the promotion for it. We're just, at this point we're in, data analyzing situation.
And that's something people need to understand. Since we've been out there, it's going on almost a month now. We're still sifting through terabytes of data that we collected over a half or a week long. So we don't
need to discuss the details of it, Jason.
Yeah.
At least not right now.
Yeah, but
let's come back and talk about that another day, man. You don't have to.
They're working.
It's all good. We appreciate it.
It's just sometimes, some things, they're not going to care about, and other things you're skirting the line, and I just rather play it safe for now.
Yeah.
When it's available, we'll talk about it.
People just gonna have to hold tight, man. Hold tight.
Yeah.
Well,
we're not
listen,
gonna.
guys.
And we're not gonna pull any of that thing where we just release a little bit at a time either. We're not gonna, it won't be on high noon anytime. It'll just be literally as soon as I can get the damn thing working to send it to you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, we appreciate that, man. But listen, guys, we're about to hit the hour-and-a-half mark. I won't keep you for your day any longer. I really appreciate you joining me. One thing I will say, as Jason can probably back me up on this, we have conversations over on Instagram Live. Gary, you said you were getting more involved with the platform. We'd love to have you there sometime over on my page. It's a lot more mellow than it is on these YouTube interviews. We just hang out. We do. Jason, you can back me up on that, man. We just shoot the shit and chat like regular dudes about anything. It ain't even have to be UAP related.
No, I just do it all through my phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we'd love you to join us on there sometime, Gary. It'd be awesome to have you there on that platform as well, my man.
So it's not all stable and in front of a actual.
Yeah, it's just chill, man.
It is what it is.
Yeah, but listen, guys, I want to just say thank you both for everything, for agreeing to join me and share your story with us. It's so appreciated, and I personally, I can't wait to see what UAPX comes out with in the future. I know it's early days, but I'm sure it's going to be incredible stuff. Your team is.
I will address one more thing.
Do it.
We don't go into CE5. We don't deal with any of the consciousness side of the phenomenon. We are dealing with just things that we can actually analyze.
Yeah. Hard data.
I don't discount that stuff, but I do have an opening invite to any of those people to prove it to me. I'm a skeptical believer of everything. So,
cool.
But we generally just handle, because I see some people talking about CE5 in the chat, and if you can summon a ship, tell them to come to my house tonight, please.
That'll make it look. Hey,
I'm not trying to bust your nuts, but
tonight, man. We can.
If you're talking to them, and you can summon them, you know, you tell me that, I'll give you my address on the private chat, and you tell them to come over and hang out.
That's cool, man. But listen, guys, thank you so much. If you don't mind hanging out just for a minute after the show, I'll drop you out, say goodbye to everyone, and then we'll just have a little debrief afterwards. I'd appreciate that. So thank you to everybody in the chat for joining us live, and for everybody that watches this after the fact. I appreciate you for the continued support. Thank you so much. And yeah, guys.
All right, guys, now we can talk about the dirt. Let's go.
I'll drop you guys out. And in fact, let's just end. Thank you so much. See you on the next one, guys. Say bye-bye to Liam.